we are going to learn how to do quick, easy paint schemes in iRacing using software called GIMP. Now, if you're not familiar with GIMP, it doesn't stand for what you think it does. It actually stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program. So it's not ableist. For all of you that think it was named after me, I'm just going to assume that you thought it stood for great, iconic man person. But if you've played games and you've had characters, you often want to customize those characters. You want to have special costumes or weapons or armor. And racing games is no different. You want to have a custom looking car. You don't want to look the same as everyone else. Whether you're in Mario Kart or whether you're in iRacing, you want to have something custom. So iRacing actually gives you some options for how to do or how to create custom cars. And I'll show you those real quick. If you go into the iRacing interface, you can go here to Paint Shop and click on that. So this is the paint interface. And the way you get to this is off the main interface. You just click down here on Paint Shop. And in here, as I said, you get your basic paint scheme to start with, and you can change all the different sponsors and numbers. You can pick different colors. And you can kind of, look at your car all different angles, and you've got different preset stripe packages and graphics packages that you can pick. And you can do it for any of the cars that you have in your inventory. You can also custom design, as I said, your helmet, your suit, and then also change the way your driver appears. So sorry I wasn't showing that before. That's how you do that. But there's also something called Trading Paints, as I said. Okay, so here you have the Trading Paints website. And Trading Paints is a third-party application that you install on your computer, and you have it running whenever you're running iRacing. And what Trading Paints allows you to do is to go through this library of custom designs that people have created using various graphic design programs, and you can select any of these paint schemes that are developed for a specific car, and you can choose to run them. And as long as you have iRacing running, as long as you have Trading Paints running while you have iRacing on, you can use those paint schemes on your car. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to show you how to create one of those paint schemes. And that's how, if I go back into iRacing real quickly, if I do have this show custom paint selected, then you can see my Trading Paints paint scheme. And this is a paint scheme that was created by somebody. And then we modified it a little bit to show off some of our sponsors. So we're going to do one of these today, except we might do the IndyCar if we have time, but we're going to start with the Spec Racer Ford. We're going to do one of these. And I've got a very specific paint scheme I want to try and replicate. I want to do a tribute to an old land speed record car. We picked the paint job for a very specific reason. And that reason is because in this video, we want to give a little love to our newest sponsor, which is Autolite. Autolite just agreed to sponsor our team and all of our drivers for 2021 recently. And so we wanted to say thank you by creating some Autolite themed paint schemes for some cars that we might be running in iRacing soon. And I came across, if we jump back, came across this picture. This picture down here right below me of this car that was referred to as the Lead Wedge, excuse me. And this was a land speed record car that was Ford powered and sponsored by Autolite. I don't know a lot of the history on this car. I probably should have done some more research to give you some background on the story behind the car and all that. I really don't know. I was kind of just looking for cool paint schemes. I saw this and I said, you know what? That car looks a lot like a Spec Racer Ford. The way the body lines run and the way the shape is, sort of that wedge shape. And I thought, man, that'd be a neat paint scheme to try and replicate. It's a fairly simple paint scheme. It doesn't have a lot to it. So we're just going to try and replicate this and do kind of a modern version of it and fit it onto a Spec Racer Ford. Now, I'm not an expert in graphic design. I don't own special software. I'm not a Photoshop user. The GIMP software is free software, and it's not going to be quite as powerful as something like Photoshop, but it's going to be able to do what you need it to do. And the big thing that it can do is it can handle multiple layers, and I'll show you once we get into how we do this why that's important. But what we're going to do to start is we're going to go back into iRacing, and the first thing you do when you want to create a custom paint scheme is over here on model options, you see it says download template, and you're going to click on that, and that's going to download the basic template for the paint scheme in a format that you can load into a graphic design program like GIMP or like Photoshop. And what I want to do today is show you guys how you don't have to be a graphic design expert to do this. There's some great people out there that actually, make a decent, paycheck just doing this for people. They charge quite a bit, and they're worth every penny. They are fantastic designers, and they come up with some really cool designs that are just as good as the stuff you see in real life. But not everybody can afford to go hire someone to create a one-off custom paint scheme. And not everybody is super proficient with these programs. So I want to show you how you can come up with something that's custom without having to know every little tip and trick. And what we're going to do is we're going to piggyback off of these templates that they have, because when you load that file that we just downloaded, I actually downloaded these earlier. They download a zip file, and then you unzip it and put it in the right folder. When they do that, they actually give you all these templates. And we're going to take one of these templates and we're going to use it to help replicate that paint scheme we want. And the one we're going to use here is the second one, because this actually gives us the right lines that we need to create that paint scheme. And you'll see in a second how we go ahead and use that. So we're going to hop out of iRacing right now, and we're going to get into the GIMP software. So I'm going to shut down. Let me find the right checkbox here. Going to turn off that. We're going to turn off iRacing, and I'm going to turn on GIMP. All right, so now we're in the GIMP software. And just so you believe me, if you go to About GIMP, there's what it's called, GNU Image Manipulation Program. That's actually what it's called. Not the acronym I would have gone for, but that's what they went with. But it's a good piece of software. And so what we're going to do is we're going to that file that we just downloaded, we're going to upload that. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Open, and we're going to go to the download folder here, and we're going to select it. It was this 23 template SRF. Make sure you pay attention to what the file is called. And inside is this PSD file, and you'll get a little preview of it right here, and you see it's just sort of this blue mishmash of different shapes. We're going to select all of the defaults here and say convert, and that's going to convert it into a file that we can use here in GIMP. And this is your template. This is essentially that 3D model taken apart and flattened out. And each one of these objects here is a surface that will then get overlaid on top of the 3D model. I mentioned that it's really important to have something that handles layers really well, and I'll show you real quickly why that is. You see over here on the right, we have a number of different colored boxes and some options here. Custom spec map, this thing that says turn off before exporting, and then printable area. And we're going to go through each one of these. So custom spec map, if we expand that, you see you've got red channel metallic, green channel metallic, blue channel, what does that say? No use. Roughness and no use. So these are, if we turn these on, You can't really see what they are. They don't really show up real carefully, but these are textures that are built into the layers. You don't really need to worry about this one so much. You just sort of leave that one as is. The second group here is one that you're going to use a lot when you're developing your look, but you're going to want to turn it off before you're done. And that's why it says the title of it is turn off before you export. But while you're working on the project, this can be very, very helpful. And the ones that are really, really helpful here is this first one that says wire. And if you click over here, it turns that on. And you get this wire map that shows you, gives you an idea of the contours and how these are going to overlay. And this is really good if you have to stretch a graphic across a boundary. It kind of helps you line things up a little bit. It also shows, you see that there's always a little bit of margin outside the white lines. There's a little bit of what's the word I want to use? It goes a little past outside the lines. So only what's inside these white lines is actually going to show up. And it's important to see where that is, because you want to make sure that any sponsor graphic or any stripes or anything that you use is going to be where you want it to be. So that's very important. You'll see we'll use that a lot. You also have this number block locations and sponsor block locations. These show you here, these are the number blocks. This shows you where iRacing is going to put your number. So you want to make sure that you don't put any sponsors in that area, because it's going to get covered up by the number. And then the sponsor locations are going to show you where you do want to put your sponsors, where the best locations are or the usual locations are for sponsors. And so we're going to use that as a guide as to where we can place our Autolite sponsorship decals. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't put anything anywhere else. But this is just typically where they recommend that you would put things. It just gives you an idea of, where the best place is to put it. But it can be outside this area. It can be, I can use this area here. That's fine. It's just a guideline. It's not a rule. We can turn those off for now. There's also this, the other one you want to know about here is this last one, car mandatory, and that's always on. You can turn it off, and you see what it does is it kind of controls things like the lights and some of the little bits and pieces of the car that are always going to be drawn. And these are bits that anytime you load the car in iRacing, it's going to load these textures. So anything you put over these, it's just going to get overwritten. These are mandatory textures. These are part of the basic part of the car, the mechanical bits and pieces and any intakes and exhaust and things like that. Stuff like that has to be there. That's going to be there. And then there's also there's this that gives an indication of your license level, that can be shown on there as well. And a lot of times there's also, this doesn't have it, there'll also be some areas that'll be things like these Sunoco and Valvoline sponsors. You can turn those off as well. There's also this mask. Do you see just anything that's not a usable area? It sort of blacks out. But when you load it into Trading Paints, you're going to load it like this. But that helps you just sort of make out and see where the right spots are. So we are going to we're going to close that, and we're going to go into this principal area. Now, this is actually where you're going to be doing your work. Here's the car decals. I'm sorry. It's in this section. This is where you can turn off those decals. So if you don't want there to be a Valvoline or a Sunoco, you can turn those off. I usually just get rid of the parts that I don't want. So, for instance, we're going to get rid of Valvoline because, if you don't know, we are a Performance Plus team. We don't use Valvoline oil. We use Performance Plus oil. So we don't want to have Valvoline logos on our car. And we'll take off some of these other decals as well, because those aren't the companies that sponsor us, and so we don't want to put them on our car. You also have these pit box colors. It's hard to see. Oh, it's right down here. You see this little green dot. So if I turn that on off, you see that. That is what color your pit box is going to be. And it just takes that color and applies it to the entire texture. So a lot of times you'll see stuff like that. They'll just be these little tiny boxes. It's just a place for you to select the color. We can zoom that back out again. You also have the color changeable logos. So these are logos that will change depending on what the base color is. We may just get rid of that entirely, actually. And then you have the car patterns. And this is where we're going to see the patterns that were shown in the iRacing paint shop. This is where those are all kept. So the one that we want, I think we have to turn the layer on. And the one that we want, we're going to turn off all these other ones, is this one right here. Now, this doesn't look like it did in the paint shop. It's got these weird yellow and blue and red colors, which is not what we had in the paint shop. They just do that here to make it easier for you to see. It's just a visibility thing. So we're going to turn off all of the other textures. This is a hierarchy. Whatever's on top, whatever's higher in the list is going to show up on top of anything below it. So none of these lower layers are even going to show up as long as we have one of the layers above them turned on. But I just like to go ahead and turn them off. That way, if I do turn off this pattern, I don't have to worry about something below it showing up that I don't want to see. Now, we want to get it to be the right color. So I want to bring up that picture again. So here's the car that we're trying to replicate, the Autolite Lead Wedge. And you see it's actually a red car, and it's got these yellow lightning bolts, and it's got the Autolite logo there on the side. Now, we're not going to have Lead Wedge written on the side of it because that's where the numbers go, and that's where some of the other sponsors are going to go. But we're going to keep the rest of the general look. But we want it to be red all the way around, and we just want this white stripe down the edge. Now, what's nice about this template is that it gives us that stripe in this blue stripe, but we don't want it to be blue. We want it to be red, or I'm sorry, we want it to be white, and we want this green area to be red. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that layer to make sure that it's active. And then we are going to go to colors, and it's been a while since I've been in here. I got to make sure I go to the right option. We're going to go to map, and we're going to go to color exchange. And here's where we can change a color from one color to the next. And this is a lot easier than trying to go through and paint. Now, I could go through just like Microsoft Paint and change the color manually, but it's a lot easier to do this because it'll get the color wherever it is. So if you have a more complicated template, this will catch it every time. So we can click on this little eyedropper, and then we select the area that we want to change. And that selects the color. And then the to color, we're just going to make it white. So we select OK. And then OK again. Oh, that didn't work. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Colors, map. This is that. That goes to white. Okay. Oh, do I have to? Sometimes I have to change this. Oh, it's up here. This is what I have to do. There we go. I have to give it this red, green, blue threshold. Since we're doing a blue stripe, we want to turn the blue all the way up. And it looks like it's... Apparently we have to bring the green up a little bit, or the red. That's the... Okay, we don't do that because that'll turn the red. Okay. Why is it making it look more light blue than white? Oh, because I changed the opacity. Okay, keep the opacity down to 0. No, I'm sorry, keep the opacity up to 100. There we go. Now you get a white stripe. There we go. Okay, now if we zoom out, you see that now that stripe is white. Now we want to change this green to red. Colors. And we go to map again. And we go to color exchange. And yes, there is a easier way to get to it than through the menus. But that's just sort of what I got used to doing. That didn't work. 2, green. Why is that not selecting that color? Okay, selected the color. And then we change this to this color. We're going to match that red. And there we go. It's already taken care of it. We click OK. And now we have the look that we want. All right, so it doesn't look like a very exciting look right now. So we have to add in all of the graphics and stuff. Now this isn't going to be the most complicated paint scheme in the world. We should be able to do this one pretty quickly. We are going to minimize that for a bit. And we are going to go into that section that's got all the little fun little guides. And we're going to turn on the number block. Because I want to make sure... Nope, that was... Is that number block? That was number block. Where's sponsor? Okay, so it's going to put the number back here. So if you look at how it is in the actual car, the Autolite sponsorship is kind of towards the back a little bit, and of course the rear tire is covered up. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge here, because obviously we don't have that space. There's an open, it's open so that you can change the tires. So we can't put the sponsor logo right there. So what we're going to do, normally it's suggesting that the sponsor logo go here. We're going to use this entire area for the sponsor logo. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to say open. Whoop, no, that's not what we want to do. Let's say open as, well, let's, hold on. Before we do that, let's make sure, you always got to be careful what you're selected. So we're going to select main car body. This is the bottom layer. We want to make sure that we select that so that whatever we paste is going to end up going into the right layer. And then we're going to say open as layers. And we have to navigate. I remember where I stored these things. Where did I put these? Pictures. We should have a folder here for Spec Racer Ford logos. All right, so let's grab, what do we want here? I didn't name these photos very effectively. All right, there's our Autolite logo. So let's open this. All right, and so it drops it down here in our list of layers. And for some reason, it's not showing up. I don't know why. Because it's below something? Do I need to move it up? There we go. Okay, I just needed to move it up so that it was above some of these other layers. It needs to be above the car pattern layer. Otherwise, it'll be underneath the car pattern. Okay, so now we have our Autolite logo. And we should be able to... Oops, I don't want to do that. We can come up here and select our tool to drag it. And we're going to want to put it down here, but it's a little too big, so we're going to resize it. Let's see if I can remember. Oop. All right, so we pick our scale tool. And we're going to shrink it down to, I think, about like that. And you see it's behind the little sponsor guide, but that's okay, because we can probably turn that off now, or at least for now. Where was that? That's up here. So here's where we're going to have it. Right about there. And now we want to duplicate that. Well, first we're going to make sure we know what it is. So right now it just has this number. So we're going to right click on it and we're going to say rename layer. Where is that? Why can't I? What am I not seeing here? Am I blind? Why is it not letting me rename it? Well, we can just do this. We can just click on it and type. So this is going to be Autolite, and this is going to be the right side of the car. So we're going to say Autolite R for Autolite right. And now we're going to want to copy this. So if we right-click on this, we can say Duplicate Layer. And you see now it creates this Autolite R copy. And we're going to click on that again. And we're going to delete that and say this is going to be Autolite left. And we select that. And I'm going to, whoops, didn't mean to do that. We're going to click on the logo, and then I'm just going to move it straight up. Now, this is kind of tedious. I think there is a quicker way to do this. But we're just going to slide it up here to make sure that it's at the same lateral position. This is rather slow. I think yeah, like I said, I'm not an expert in the software. I do think there is a faster way to do this. You can just drag it and then approximate where it goes. Or use the pixel positions to make sure that you get it pixel perfect right where you want it. But if you're patient, you can just do this. Now, obviously, this side of the car on the template is upside down. So we don't want the logo right side up. We want the logo upside down. So we want to right click over here where we hit scale, and now we want to hit rotate. And I think I hold shift. And shift allows you to rotate in increments like this. You can also hold control and you can do a smooth rotate. But if you hold shift, it'll sort of snap to certain degrees. So that's easy if you want to just keep things, you know, simple and horizontal. But if you do want to have something at a different angle, you can hold control, or you can just come in here and type the specific angle if you want to have that degree of control. So now we've got our Autolite logos where we want them. So we have the option now of, you know, putting our other sponsors on here as well. So we will do that. Let's go ahead and let's see. Let's look at the car. Let's look at the picture. It's got a Ford logo on the nose. And it's got a little bit of room at the back here. Where it says Autolite here is where the number is going to be. So we've got some room at the back, and then we've got these let's do the lightning bolts, because that's a pretty big part of the look. So let's go ahead and do that part. So now we're going to go to File and Open as Layers, and we're going to grab that lightning bolt. All right, so here is this, and then we're going to go ahead and name this. We're going to say lightning bolt, and this is going to be the one that goes on the right side of the car. Now, again, looking at the picture, it looks like it's oriented reverse of this. So we're going to want to actually, let's go ahead and make this lightning bolt left, because it's already oriented the way it would be on the left. And we're going to go up here to the rotate tool, and we're going to go ahead and rotate it this way. Now we want to skew this because this is kind of at a 45-degree angle, and as you can see in the picture, it's more kind of going straight down the side of the car. So we kind of want to straighten this out a bit. We can simply angle it, and we'll probably angle it a little bit. Let's see if we can get most of it that way. But I also kind of want to just skew this a little bit as well. So we're going to go to, I think we can do it in scale. Or no, that's going to make it go. I don't want to scale it in I want to be able to like change it in one dimension but not the other. So where's the right tool for that? Is it transform? Let's go scale. Maybe I can tell it I only want to scale it in one direction. There we go. So you hold shift. Okay, like I said, it's been a while since I used this. You hold shift, and then you can do it in just one direction. Otherwise, it shrinks it the same size, or it keeps the aspect ratio the same. So we kind of want to do that too, but we also want to make it a little skinnier, and maybe we'll make it a little bit longer. Like this. It's not going to be exactly the way it was on the... whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Undo. I was grabbing the wrong layer. It's not going to be exactly the way it is on the old car, but we're going to keep it close. It's an homage. It's not a replication. So I think if we do it like that, that looks pretty good, right? I mean, I think that kind of replicates the look. Maybe a little bit further down because it looks like it doesn't start right at the back of the car. Maybe like that. I think that looks good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to replicate that again. Or duplicate, like we did before. Alright, we're going to say this is lightning bolt R. But this one, we are going to select it, and then we're going to go to flip. And we're going to flip it. I think, is it horizontal? No. Vertical? There we go. There we go. All right. And now we're going to reposition it. So again, let's make sure we have it selected. You actually have to reselect things sometimes. It's kind of tedious, but unfortunately you do have to do it. Otherwise it'll sometimes grab the wrong layer. And again, we'll do this little slow drag. But we've almost got the look. I mean, already. We've been doing this long, and we've got the major parts already complete. All right, and I think we can kind of line up. It looks like this point here is kind of right on that white line, so we'll match that up so that it looks like it's a perfect mirror image. And I think we've got it. Now at this point, we haven't saved yet, so we want to do a save as. And I'll show you where these go, because you don't want to, you can save them anywhere as a working file, but ultimately you do have to put them in the correct iRacing folders. So iRacing by default creates the folder in your My Documents. So you go to your My Documents, then you go to iRacing, and they're going to go to Paint. And this is where not only your car paint schemes are, but also your uniforms, helmets, things like that. And you're going to find the right car. So we're going to be look for the Spec Racer Ford. I think we just went by it. Spec Racer. Oh, okay. That's what it is. All right. Okay. So once you find what they called the folder, then you can go ahead and save it in that folder. And you want to say, let's see, I think you want to show all files, because you got to make sure you save it as a particular format. Now, for right now, we're just saving a working file. We're not exporting. So actually, that doesn't matter right now. Forget what I said. We're just saving it as a working file. It's going to save it as this XCF file, but we do want to name it something that's a little bit different than the default. So we're going to say this is the Spec Racer. We're going to call it the Autolite Lead Wedge Tribute. All right. So that's what we're going to call it. So now if our computer crashes, we won't lose our work. All right. So let's do a little bit more. I want to get rid of some stuff here. I want to go and get rid of some of the default stuff that was in there. All right, so we're going to go erase some things. We're going to pick the eraser tool. We're going to be on the car decal. And we're going to get rid of this Valvoline logo. No offense to Valvoline, but that's not what we use. And we're going to put our oil sponsor right there where that one was. Oh, why did it flip my Autolite logo back around? When did that happen? Okay, so that got messed up a little bit, so I need to fix that. I don't know why that got reversed. And we also see that it is now actually covering up the SCCA Club Racing logo, and we don't want to mess with that. We'll keep those logos there. So I think we'll leave the rest alone. The rest are okay for now. But we got to fix that. So we're going to select. We're going to go down and grab these Autolite logos. And we're going to pick the tool. We're going to click on the logo, and we're just going to use the arrow keys here. And we're going to slide it up until it's above that logo. And we're going to use as a guide the border around the logo. And the border is kind of just above the SCCA logo. And then we can come over here and pick the left side logo. We're going to click that. The first thing we got to do is rotate it. And so we'll go here and pick the rotate tool. And we're going to spin you around again. I don't know why you didn't stay. Oh, I think I know. Sometimes you have to hit rotate and that locks it in. That might have been what I did. It doesn't matter now. You think you just leave it and let it go, but I think if you don't actually click rotate, it doesn't keep the setting. That might have been what I did. Obviously, I'm jumping around and I didn't notice, so it should stay that way now. We'll go ahead and we're going to click save to save those changes, and we're going to import that other sponsor I mentioned, which is going to be the Performance Plus Oil. We're going to make sure that we have them where that Valvoline decal was. So we're going to make sure that we're again in this principal area, and we're going to go to File, Open as Layer. We're going to go back to our Pictures folder and back to our Spec Racer Ford logos, and we're going to grab this Performance Plus logo here. All right, and that's already kind of labeled fairly clear, but it's way too big, so we're going to rescale it. Oops, no, it's not what I wanted to do. Undo that. Did I pick the wrong? Oh, I picked crop. I didn't mean to pick crop. I meant to pick resize. Scale. That's what I did wrong. Okay, so we click this, and we're going to make that smaller. Something maybe about like that. We'll make it nice and big. We're going to give some love to them. Make sure everybody can see the logo. And we're going to stick it right there. That there's about good. That looks pretty good. And then we're going to go duplicate that. And we're going to grab it. And this time I think we're just going to drag it straight up. We're not going to get too fancy with it because I think we can get it in just about the right spot. And then we're going to go up here and select rotate and make sure that we flip that around and make sure we click rotate to lock it in. And there we go. And we've got that on there. So again, let's save. And let's keep going. So we've got some others. We're gonna go and grab, oops, file, open as layers, and it didn't save the folder selection. I was hoping it would open right up into that folder. And let's do this Ford logo. So let's grab the Ford logo. Now it's a big sucker. And we're gonna click on that. And go to scale. And we're going to shrink it way down because we want it to look right. And then we're going to go up here and click rotate. Oop. And we're going to rotate it so that it's vertical. And then we're going to drag it. And we're going to use these lines to get it centered right in the middle, right underneath that SCCA logo. Right about there looks pretty good, I think. Happy with that. All right. And now, let's see what's next. Let's go to, again, open as layers. And we're going to add in our, oh man, it's going to make me go back to that folder every time. All right. Let's do let's see. We got to put our team logos on here somewhere, right? So let's do this. This is our C Squared Racing logo. We want to make sure we give our own team a little bit of love. So let's put this logo. Where's a good place for this logo? Because we're now getting into... There wasn't a lot on the actual car. So where can we put this that isn't going to necessarily ruin the aesthetic? Maybe here. Maybe we can put a couple of them there. So let's go to... We'll do rotate since we're there. We'll spin this around, and then we've got to scale it down. And then we'll place it sort of like there. Maybe we need to make it a little smaller. Yeah, I like to use the keys sometimes just to get it just right. About like that. We'll use those lines, those frame lines as a guide. Kind of put it right there, and then we're gonna go here. Let's go ahead and label this C2 logo, and then we're gonna duplicate that layer, and we're gonna drag it, and we're gonna put it right there. And again, we're gonna center it right on those lines. We're gonna use them like crosshairs, and then we're gonna have our team logo right there, where it's nice and prominent right up front. Now let's look to see where sponsor logos normally go. Let's go ahead and look at that again as a guide. So there's usually some space here in the back that we haven't used. There's a little space here on the fender, and there's some space up here right in front of the cockpit. So we can take advantage of some of those areas as well. I think I know what I want to put in this green area right here. We'll probably go ahead and maybe put Autolite here, and I don't know. We don't have to use every little area. It's just a suggestion. We can kind of do our own thing. But definitely that gives us some ideas. So let's go ahead and we'll save. I'm going to save frequently. Open as layer, and then let's add in the Safety Clean logo. Now, Safety Clean is part of the parent company, which the parent company is called Clean Harbors, that makes Performance Plus oil. So, whoops, did not mean to do that. All right, let's label this Safety Clean logo. And we're going to resize this about like that. And then we're going to put, what did I just grab? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That's what I've said. It's, you think you're working in just that one layer, but it sometimes just wants to grab the wrong thing on you. All right, so that looks good. Now we're going to duplicate that. And we're going to go ahead and rotate you around 180 degrees. And we're going to stick you. You go right about, let's get you just lined up. Just like your partner on the other side there. You're up a little higher now, aren't you? So, about like that. I think that looks about right. All right. Now we're going to do the next one. Now, yeah, this part can get a little tedious sometimes. But this is what it is. And like I said, you know, we're almost done. We're going to finish this in no time. We're an hour into it, and we're almost done. So let's Spec Racer Ford logos, and let's do, you know what? This year is the 85th anniversary of Autolite, so let's give them a little love by putting their anniversary logo on there. Let's do that. It's a big sucker. So let's call this Autolite 85th. All right. And we're going to put this right in front of the cockpit. So we're going to rotate it like this. We're going to resize it. Then we're going to stick that, I think, right there. That's about where the recommended spot was, right? Right on top. Perfect. All right. And then we're going to take the main Autolite logo and you know what I like? I like the idea of maybe just making this real big and just putting it right there in the center. Because it has Autolite right on it. Let's just make that logo big. Let's do that. Because we don't have to obey the template perfectly, right? Let's kind of do something like this. Let's see what this looks like. And I'll show you in a minute how you check things. Because you say, well, how do I know it's good? And I'm going to show you how you check it. And it's a little tedious, but it will work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to redo this because it's a little fuzzy. And I've noticed that if you shrink something down and then try and bring it back up again, it doesn't work real well. So we're going to actually delete this layer. And I'm going to re-import it. And it'll be worth it. All right. We're going to name it again. Autolite 85th. All right. And I'm going to rotate it first. I'm going to put it roughly in the middle. Now we're going to scale it down. Yeah, see that? See how much better that looks? Whoops. So you got to be real careful which layer you're grabbing. All right, it's still a little big, so let's scale it down a little bit more to make sure it fits on the surface. And then I'm going to use the keys to get it lined up. I'll use the little points on the shield part to get it lined right up. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit more just to make sure that it's not running too far out to the edge, because that doesn't usually look good. You don't want it too close to the edges. I think that looks pretty cool. I think that's going to look neat. That'll be a nice little, you know, because it's their 85th anniversary, and this car is a tribute to something that a car that they sponsored, a historical car. So I think that's really cool that we're sort of bringing a historical tribute paint scheme to them, you know, and it's also an anniversary year for them as well. So we'll do that. I think that's pretty cool, and I kind of like that. So now we do have some room back here that we could put a sponsor as well. I don't know if I'm going to, though. I kind of think maybe I want to just leave that blank. And then, oh, real quick, we want to make sure that when we race this car, that the pit box is the right color, right? And we want the pit box to kind of match the the car, right? So we're gonna grab this red that we're making the car, and we're gonna come down here to where this little box is for the pit box, and we're gonna paint that. Do I have to get the... Yeah, okay. Oh, I gotta select the area. I was on the wrong layer. I gotta select the layer. Pit box colors. There we go. Active layer is not visible. Oh, I gotta turn to visible. There we go. There we go. Okay, let's save. Okay, so I think we've got a decent look here. I kind of like how this is going to go. We'll check it just to make sure that the number blocks aren't obscured, and they're not. Everything is going to be just fine where it is. We didn't use all of the sponsor areas, but I think it's okay. We do have a little area there in the back that we could use if we wanted to add another sponsor, and maybe we can always come back later and spruce this up. But the original car didn't have a lot of sponsors on it, so I kind of like the idea of keeping it a little bit clean to keep it more in line with what it originally looked like. So In order to export this, we first of all, we want to turn off all those layers. And you see, you lose everything. You lose all definition of where the car is and what it looks like. But this is really what iRacing wants to see when you export, because it will overlay it over the map. It has that map built in, and it just wants to kind of drop this on top. So we do have this little outline edge here, but I think that is not going to show up. If it does, we can come in and clean that up a little bit, because I think that's a remnant of when we did the color exchange. I think that is sort of on the outside edge. It's outside the white line, so I don't think it'll show up. But like I said, if it does, we'll fix it. So now we want to export this. So we go to export, and we are going to say show all file types. And then we're going to say select file type by extension. And what we want to pick here, we're going to scroll down a ways, and we're going to pick this target image. That's the file format that it needs to be in order to be read by iRacing. And we can keep the label the same, the file name the same, but we want to make sure we pick Targa. And select the file, select Targa. Oop, why did it not? It changed it back to... Okay, change it back to make sure it's TGA. And then we're going to say export. And it's going to give us this option of where we want the origin to be. Just leave that alone and just say export. Now that's going to dump this TGA file onto the into that folder that we were working out of. So now what we need to do is go get out of GIMP, and we're going to go into Trading Paints. All right, so now we're back in Trading Paints. And what we're going to do in Trading Paints is we're going to come up here to upload, and we're going to select that. And it's going to say select a paint file. And we are going to go into our documents folder, and we're going to say iRacing, and we're going to say paint. And does anybody remember what that file folder was called? It was it Spec Racer? Oops. Spec Racer. All right. And here we go. We have Spec Racer Autolite Lead Wedge Tribute. And we're going to select that. And that's going to go ahead and upload. And there it is. So for right now, we're just going to say just me, because we're not 100% sure this is perfect yet. We got to check it out first. We got to say vehicle. We're going to say this is for the SCCA Spec Racer Ford. Right there. All right. We're going to go with the sim stamp number. We're going to go ahead and let iRacing put a number on it. There is if you're in Trading Paints Pro, because you can also pay for Trading Paints Pro, and you can have the option of fixing a number on there if you want to have a specific number. But we're going to let iRacing go ahead and put the number on there. And that's generally, I think, what you're probably going to want to do, because you're going to get into a racing series where you're not always going to be able to pick what your number is. So we want to let iRacing go ahead and put the correct number on there. We're going to say upload to my paints. And that is going to chug. And there it is. And that's what it's going to look like for now. And now we're going to go into iRacing. We're going to turn off Trading Paints. We're going to hop back into the iRacing application. And it should load that file. Doesn't seem to be loading it. Maybe we need to hop out. I'm going to say no. Oh, I know what we need to do. We need to go back into, hold on. I need to go back into Trading Paints real quick. And I need to select that I'm going to be driving that car. So you essentially you scroll down and it says what it asks you to. It basically says it lists the teams that you drive with, and it asks what car you want to drive, and you have to select the paint again. So I have to tell it that it's not just enough to upload the file. You have to tell it that you actually want to use the file. So now I go into Paint Shop, and it should load, and there it is. Okay, and immediately we have some problems. And this is why you check it. So it's not bad though. I mean, there's some things here I like. I like the C Squared Racing logos on the fenders look pretty good. The safety clean needs to move a little bit because this clip that holds part of the body on is obscuring the logo. It actually almost fits right into the logo, but not in a way that we like. So we don't want that. We don't want some piece of equipment blocking the logo. And obviously here, we don't want the Autolite logo coming in underneath the fender or tucked in like that. So that's why it only gives you this area as the sponsor area. I'm not super familiar with the car. Also, we forgot to turn off the wireframe. I thought I turned all that off, but apparently I didn't because now it shows the wireframe. But that's okay when you're just checking it out initially. That's not a big deal. But the stripes on the side are little Lightning McQueen stripes look pretty good. I like that. It almost makes you wonder if that's where they got the idea for Lightning McQueen's look, because it does look a lot like Lightning McQueen's car. If you didn't know what I was actually doing a tribute of, you'd probably think I was trying to do a Cars car. But we need to fix this. So we need to move this logo back and make sure that it's not interfering with this area. We want to keep this area probably blank. So it means we're probably going to have to shrink the logo down a little bit, and we're going to have to move the Safety Clean logo. So we're going to go back into GIMP. All right, so there we go. So that looks a lot better. I like that. I think that looks pretty good. So it would have been nice to have the Autolite logo a little bit bigger, but that's not too bad. So I think if we look at that, and then compare it to the picture, I think that's pretty good. I think that's a successful paint job. So I'm happy with that.